Hi, my name is Dr. Samantha Wellspring. I'm also known as Isla, and I was going to talk a little bit about sleep issues today. It's definitely one of the most common issues I see in my practice, and I think this is probably true of a lot of physicians, so definitely worth talking about. And I was going to talk about just common sleep patterns and then reasons why you might see those type of sleep patterns. So, common sleep patterns would be difficulty getting to sleep, difficulty staying asleep. So that could either look like going to bed and waking up a couple hours later and then having trouble settling back into sleep, or sleeping mostly through the night, but after about 5 or 6 hours, you wake up and you just can't get back to sleep at all. It can be, often it can either be, it could be both, but either it's more of a mental kind of mind racing, difficulty shutting down the mind, or it can be energy, physical energy in the body. That the mind is calm, actually you're not really thinking about a whole lot, but you have this physical energy in the body. Some people have a sort of buzzy, anxious type feeling. Other people, it's pain, tossing and turning all night because of pain and having difficulty, getting comfortable in bed. Some people, it's that they're just really sensitive to noises. So the slightest noise, sound, movement in the bed will cause them to wake up. Often this could be due to someone who maybe as a child, they were raised in a really quiet environment. Maybe there's been some sort of trauma that's happened that's caused them to be hypervigilant. Or they're caring for a partner who is, ill and they have to be attentive. They have a child who they need to get up to nurse. And then also animals. So animals are actually a huge cause of insomnia. Animals sleeping in the bed, hogging the space. Maybe they're, cats love to walk over your face, it seems like, or snuggle up to you, which can cause you to wake up. And then, or you can have an elderly animal, a dog or cat that maybe has poor bladder or bowel control or a lot of pain and they need meds or they need to be taken out to go to the bathroom. So those are some, common patterns or reasons that I see. In terms of the more physiological perspective, some of the things that I've discovered is that you can have low serotonin. So serotonin is the relaxed, happy, think about turkey, what happens after you eat a turkey meal. You just kind of want to go to sleep and you're super relaxed. And serotonin works really well for people who have kind of a tightly wound nervous system. Maybe they're anxious, they have trouble settling down, that kind of ADD type personality. And people who actually respond really well to cannabis, especially people who can be kind of anxious and cannabis just chills them out. This is actually serotonin that they're craving, and cannabis is a really good source of serotonin, believe it or not, and that's why it works so well for them, I believe. So if someone comes and responds really well to cannabis, that'll be a cue to me that, oh, they're probably lacking in serotonin, and that can be really helpful for them. Another neurotransmitter is GABA. GABA is the off switch in the brain. So people who have a lot of mental activity, they get in mind loops or they can't shut the mind down. Usually they're low in GABA and they respond really well to GABA. So that can be really helpful in some of those situations. And then there's the two biggies. There's cortisol and melatonin, which actually work very intimately together. They work oppositely. So cortisol is that sort of fight or flight hormone. It's part of the parasympathetic nervous system, but one of the really good things that it does is it actually gives us energy. It's the impetus to wake up in the morning. So it's highest in the morning, and then it goes down as the day goes along, and it's lowest at night. And that's when melatonin kicks in, and melatonin is highest at night, and then it goes down as the night goes along and is lowest in the morning, and then that's when cortisol kicks in. So they work oppositely from each other. And often what I'll see is a reverse cortisol pattern in people, and this is people who've had a lot of long-term stresses, or maybe they've had some traumas recently and they are just their cortisol, either it's high the whole way through, or they can have this reverse pattern where it's high at night when it should be the lowest. So they have this feeling of energy, they can't get settled, they can't get to sleep, and then in the morning they have so much trouble getting up and getting energy to get going with their day because they don't have that cortisol to get them going. So, and another thing that can happen is that maybe you have a relatively, normal cortisol rhythm, but then in the middle of the night, it actually go up. And so these people can have, maybe they'll wake up in the night with their heart racing or, kind of startled. And that's typically due to cortisol. So cortisol gives you this energy in the body. So that feeling of energy in the body, that's usually a sign that there's too much cortisol. Melatonin, on the other hand, melatonin is also a hormone. It's produced in the brain, and it's stimulated by the change in light. So daylight is a blue type of light, and the light at night, it switches to be more of this red type light. And that's that switch that happens, around sunset, that triggers melatonin. And you need melatonin triggers the impetus to go to sleep. What happens is the electronics, so it could be the lights in the house. There's a lot of lights that are a blue type light. All the electronics are mostly a blue type light. So computers, phones, they're emitting this blue light. Smart TVs, they're emitting this blue light. And the blue light is stimulating. So your body never kind of kicks in with this melatonin production. So you're not producing enough melatonin to get the impetus to go to sleep. And the way to correct that is just, there's certain apps you can get on your devices to change the light to go from this blue to red. The best would really be change out your light bulbs, or at least in the places that you dim the lights before you go to bed. Turn off the electronics an hour or two before bed. That would be the ideal. But many of us, me included, I'm going to include myself here, is that, sometimes I'll get on the phone or something before bed. I'll check Facebook, whatever it is, do some emails, and that can really mess with your melatonin. So something to be aware of. And then kind of integrately or connected to melatonin, since we're kind of talking about this light, is the EMF that comes from electronics and different sources. But EMF is electromagnetic frequencies, and this is coming from our electronics. It's coming from our Wi-Fi router, which is one of the strongest sources, our smart TVs, smart meters on the houses. If you live by any power lines or transformers, those are all emitting these electromagnetic frequencies that are actually very different than our own natural frequency, because we are electromagnetic beings and we emit a certain electromagnetic frequency. And it used to be that we would walk barefoot and sleep on skins on the ground, and we would ground, and what that means is that our frequency is matching the Earth's frequency. Because it's a bigger mass, it will sort of pull us into its energetic field. And that grounding, that feeling of being really grounded on the Earth, is actually due to connecting with the Earth's energy. But the frequency that's coming from electronics and all these smart devices, it's very ungrounding. And so it can cause that buzzing sensation in the body. It can make people anxious, trouble getting to sleep. So it's a really real thing that's, there's a lot of information coming out about it. It doesn't affect everybody, but those that are a bit more sensitive can really be affected by it. And something as simple as, moving the Wi-Fi router to the opposite end of the house from where your bed is, or even better, turning it off at night, can be really helpful. You definitely want to power down your electronics as much as you can, definitely the phone. All that stuff can kind of mess with your body's natural rhythm. And another thing can be blood sugar. So this isn't the most common cause of sleep disturbance, but I have seen it time to time. And this is typically with people who have difficulty regulating their blood sugar in general, and or if it could be someone who mostly does well with their blood sugar, but say they drink a bunch of alcohol late at night. maybe they went to a party and had a bunch of wine or whatever, beers, and then they have trouble either getting to sleep, or they'll fall asleep and then they wake up a couple hours later. And this is because the blood sugar has gone way high and then it drops down and you become sort of hypoglycemic, and that stimulates your body to wake up. So it's mostly, it also could be from desserts, and it would be probably a dessert that didn't really have any fat or protein in it, something that's more just sugar or carbohydrate. So, ideally you wouldn't drink right up until sleep time, and, or, maybe drink a little bit less, or know that if you're going to drink a lot, that could be a problem. And so, another thing that can be helpful is having a scoop of nut butter. And maybe it's not even any of those things. Maybe it's just your body has trouble regulating sugar. So having a scoop of nut butter before bed gives you this more steady, long-term energy. Sugar gives you high energy and then you crash. It's real quick energy. But protein and fats give you more long-term, stable, steady energy. So that can be really helpful. And then not last, but another thing is, like I kind of mentioned, is this sympathetic nervous system, or just nervous system kind of hypervigilance and tightly wound nervous system. And this can be from traumas past or present, and especially if the trauma happened in the night. So say you get a call, someone's passed away in the night, and your body kind of holds that trauma memory, or you were, abused, you were robbed, something happened in the night, and you have that cellular memory of that. So that can be another reason. Or the new mother, who is just hypervigilant to the environment. So I really love working with herbs, and often I'll give someone a bunch of nervines to kind of help unwind and rewire their nervous system. The body, like I mentioned with urination, the body, once you've set up a neural network, a neural pathway, the body wants to follow that, because it's much easier to follow something that's already set up than create a whole new neural pathway. So it really involves retraining and regrowing neural networks to create a new response. And what can be helpful is also just to calm down the response and relax, physically relax the body. That would be the same, with pain, really working with the nervous system and with pain to kind of rewire the system around pain, or, deal with the issue, whether it be surgery or physical therapy or yoga, whatever it is to deal with the pain. And then last but not least, that I'm going to talk about today is parasites. So my special love is gastroenterology, and people don't really realize that parasites, especially I'm thinking of Blastocystis hominis is one that can cause insomnia, anxiety, all kinds of issues. And it's really about this gut-brain connection. It goes both ways. There's the brain-gut and the gut-brain. So sometimes a physiological imbalance, infection, something like that, can actually cause anxiety and cause all these mental type issues. So if you have GI symptoms, really working to clear that up can really help with sleep a lot. And I know that there's probably countless other things that I'm not thinking of, but these are the main ones that I see a lot of, and just thought it could be helpful for you to kind of figure out what is the cause, what is the pathway, the reason why, what am I deficient in. And I haven't really talked a ton about treatment, so if you'd like to know any more, come see me at Namaste Health Center in Durango, Colorado, and schedule an appointment. And I hope this was helpful. So have a beautiful, restful evening.